More people go into hardship or stress, and none of us want to see the anguish that unfortunately families are going through, especially as we get to a period where families come together. Let's not cause additional anguish unnecessarily, and I'm proud of what we've achieved so far in New South Wales, and I know in a week, things can change very dramatically, but I have confidence that the community will keep supporting our efforts, and I have confidence that we'll keep being able to be vigilant and not complacent. And so therefore, apart from the Victorian situation, which I'm pleased to say is looking better and better every day, the rest of Australia has absolutely no reason to have any borders between us. Victoria is the only state which I think justifiably is cut off from the rest of Australia at this stage, but I don't feel there's any reason for any other state to have those borders.
What would it take for Victoria to see us stop that border restriction?
Well, look.
What's the barrier there?
Yeah, well, look, we're monitoring the situation closely. We're getting updates from our health experts closely. Oh, it's not so much a number. It's really about how many unknown cases there are and what the trends are. But also remember the incubation period of the virus is 2 weeks. And so we don't want to leave the borders up any more than we need to. And we also can consider, as I said last week, mentioned that perhaps we leave Melbourneites for now but open it up to everybody else. And so these are all the options we're considering. But I do want to make sure that we don't have those border checkpoints for a day longer than we need to. There's 27 of them formally. A lot of resources are required. But having said that, we also need to make sure we feel that we've got enough control on data. And that's one of the issues that came up at National Cabinet last Friday, which the Prime Minister alluded to. When the states data share with each other, it gives us an extra degree of confidence. And I know that our health experts and the Victorian health experts have been sharing data more and more, and that helps us in making those assessments.
Is there a limit or a number that you want to see? And does the number of daily number of tests or an extended daily number of tests play any into your thinking when you're considering future for New South Wales in terms of restrictions?
Oh, potentially. When the health experts give me their advice, when Dr. Chan gives me her advice, you have to look at a number of factors. You can't just look at one thing in isolation. And obviously, if we know that there are unknown cases that keep coming up and the testing rates are low, that would be cause for concern, because it means the virus is circulating, yet not everybody perhaps is getting tested. But we also know from the health advice I've received that you go through various phases of when people are more likely to get other viruses which have flu-like symptoms. And as this time of year is what it is, it could be coincidental that there are other factors attributing to those low test rates. I remember back in March we were aiming for 8,000 a day, but now things have moved on and we exceeded 30,000 days on 30,000 tests in a day in some occasions. We would definitely like to see that testing rate go up, and it's dipping on the weekends, and we don't want to see that. Please get tested when you need to. Don't wait. Even waiting a day or two can have catastrophic consequences.
Or a medical point of view, to Chris's point, what would make you comfortable for us to lower the border to Victoria?
Look, if I'm talking sort of generics around what we're seeing the pattern of disease in New South Wales at the moment, is we are actually hopeful that we're really mopping up any remnants of disease transmission. And that's why we need the community to give a bit of a push now, because if we can actually detect any of those stray cases that haven't been detected, it can mean that we can be confident we're approaching no community transmission, which is our goal. We look at cases as being different. So the ones that give me concern, today's case doesn't give me concern. That person developed symptoms, was tested, and they had already been identified as a close contact and were in isolation. And similarly, the cases in hotel quarantine do not pose a risk of border transmission. So the sorts of things that we'll be looking at is the testing levels in Victoria, the level of locally acquired where they can't, where the person was not in isolation. So I think some people have termed that infectious days in the community, that sort of concept. As the numbers come down, the information we're getting from Victoria is much improved, and I'd like to also extend my appreciation when we've had some cases more recently in the border communities where we've had to work together. We've worked together excellently to resolve those. And so I think as the case numbers become lower, we will get that granular detail, and that will inform some of our advice. Obviously, we want to see the effect of easing restrictions as well, because at the moment the number of contacts that they would have for every case, given the lockdown, is very low. because you can't have many people in your house, you can't go out very many. Most restaurants and cafes are not open. And so the contact tracing issues are not as evident in Victoria and Melbourne at this point in time. So there's some of the considerations that we watch. We meet regularly with all of our colleagues in the states and share information. And so I will be updating my advice to the Premier on a regular basis based on those sort of general considerations.